Alright guys, today we're going to go over how to test your RPM blow-off valve. We get tons of questions, guys who think they have issues. I'm going to lay it out right now. 99% of guys who think they have an issue with their blow-off valve don't have an issue with their blow-off valve. They're just testing it wrong. We had a video of how to test it before. We're going to clear a lot of things up. We used to use this trick where you push this thing up. This is a 1/2 inch extension. We push it up, hold it. If you hear any noise, that's all you got to hear. It doesn't have to slam down. Any vacuum whatsoever, you have eliminated the blow-off valve from not being able to hold vacuum. So, if you want to test it the right way, you need a mighty vac. We just do this until the piston raises. I'll do it again. Piston raises. Once it raises, that's it. It's holding. The blow-off valve it's moving. Then it slams down. Why this is so tough to use your thumb for is that you may have fish scale thumbs. I don't know. Like you have a dry thumb, maybe you got a really wet thumb. I don't know. There's so many guys who test it wrong. Or another problem is they try to roll their thumb off of it. It's so quick and snappy that's the only way it'll actually work. So the correct way to do it is with a mighty vac. That is to just simply open it. As soon as that piston moves, you can open it all the way. It doesn't really matter. It's holding vacuum. That's all we care about. Is it holding vacuum? Is it not holding vacuum? That's the only things we're looking for. So that's how you test if it's holding vacuum. And what that's going to determine is the O-rings. So a lot of guys pinch this upper O-ring, or they've damaged this O-ring by inspecting it. The blow-off valve should come pretty lubed up. If it doesn't, the newest kits available come with extra O-rings and extra inner and upper O-ring. There's 2 inner O-rings and 2 upper. What guys will do, they'll put this piston in, slam it down, it pushes the O-rings out, creates a leak immediately. This piston has to kind of like gently just kind of fall into place, and then it'll move freely. So moving on, the next thing is spring rate. This spring is the one we run. That's what we call it, our heavy duty spring. Then we have this extreme heavy duty spring. If you're hearing vacuum at idle or when you're cruising, you hear like a, that's normal. It's fine. It's okay for it to have suction at normal. A blow-off valve only blows. That's why it's a blow-off valve. Never will a blow-off valve ever intake air. This is our extreme heavy duty spring. This will get rid of the suction or hissing noise that some guys say is out there. This is our older spring, so you can kind of see. They're all really similar to spring rates. This right here is our heavy spring. That's what we run in our Polaris and our X3s. You're gonna get these 2 in your kit. There's a few of them floating around out there with this light duty spring. It works good, but we've kind of gotten away from it. We like different style cut is what it's called. So we run this heavy duty spring. It's the smaller of the 2 springs that are gonna come in your most recent kits. So as we run in there, you're not gonna hear, again, you're not gonna hear your piston slam down. Some will, some won't. It's irrelevant. Is it holding vacuum is all we're testing. So that's kind of what we have going on there. Another really common issue, I don't even have a stock Polaris charge tube, so we're going to show you on an aftermarket tube. But the stock Polaris charge tubes kind of have an issue in that they're plastic and they're junk. So guys will get these blow-off valves. The first thing you're going to want to do if you get a RZR blow-off valve kit and a Polaris charge tube, you can take this rubber seal off. You don't have to, but if you're running a plastic OEM charge tube, leave it on. Guys will install it, they clamp it down, they install that big clamp on it. On the stock plastic charge tube, it squeezes, and what it does is it kind of makes like an oblong like deal around it, and you can't really see it, but like the plastic one will almost pinch the plastic, and what that does is it creates a really loud whistle when under boost and accelerating. You'll hear like the blow-off valve closes and then it starts whistling, like screaming. That is your stock factory charge tube because either broken here, has broken in the flex joints, or you haven't got a complete clamp here at the blow-off valve. So if that happens, just rotate the blow-off valve maybe, turn this clamp a little, then make it pinch somewhere else, and then reclamp it, and you should be good to go. That covers the whistling on the RZR blow-off valve kits. With the X3s and RZRs too, if you hear like a suction or a whooshing noise, or not even a whooshing, like they call it like a whistle, but we get a lot of emails about it, like a vacuum noise when you're cruising. Like you'll be cruising, it'll be like, and then you can hear it kind of slam. That's normal. It's just venting the hot intake air temps out of the blow-off valve while you're cruising. Again, the blow-off valve will only ever blow. It's not suction. Guys are like, I can hear it intaking. Trust me, your turbo's not intaking any air except for the intake. On the blow-off valves, again, we always point them downward. So if this is the RZR one installed on a machine, we kind of point it downward. If it's an X3 one, we kind of point it forward and down towards like the seats. If it's a little too loud on the X3s, point it downward and backwards. Or even on the RZR, if it's too loud, you can point it backwards, away from your head. And that will help quiet it down a little bit. This also acts as a muffler. If you think the blow-off valve is too loud, you can run the muffler on. So that's what the filter technically does. On Polaris's, you can also recirculate back to your factory intake tube, not hear your blow-off valve at all. X3s, we offer a kit to recirculate, so you don't hear the blow-off valve at all. Obviously, there's huge advantages to running a blow-off valve on an X3, which doesn't come with the blow-off valve's factory. If you're running in the mud, run the filter. Instructions. A lot of guys, I didn't get any instructions with my blow-off valve. They're here looking for a piece of paper, and they're just like, oh wow, there's a bright yellow sticker that says instructions right there. It's on all of our products. The E-valves, exhaust, instruction sticker. Muffler deletes has an instruction sticker somewhere. It's always a sticker to a link to go to our website. This link will take you to all of the products. If you have a blow-off valve for an X3, a blow-off valve for a RZR, whatever it may be, snowmobile stuff, this sticker will take you to our instructions to our website. If you say you don't have one and you insist you still don't, bottom of the web page, installation instructions link is there. What else we have going on here? Guys who insist that they've tested their blow-off valve and they still don't hear a suction noise. If you still don't hear a suction noise, set your phone up in front of it, have your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever take a video. I want to hear you testing it. Because I can usually tell when guys aren't directly lifting up their thumb, they kind of like do this. This is real common. Oh, they like roll it off there. Or you got sandpaper thumb and you're not holding any vacuum. Regardless, the best way to do it is always going to be the Mighty Vac. But send us a video of you testing your blow-off valve. We'll be able to tell you if you're testing it right and if the blow-off valve is working. Here's the thing. We test every single one of these blow-off valves. 3 guys on the table, and they just literally, we test every single one before it goes out. We tighten the caps, tighten this, inspect it. These blow-off valves are all pre-tested before they go out. Someone's hands have touched every single one of these blow-off valves. So we're pretty confident the O-rings are in correctly. We know that they're not too tight on top. So, but warranties happen. We sell, tens of thousands of these blow-off valves. Every once in a while we're gonna get a warranty, but I'll say this, 98% of them that come back to us don't have an issue. It was usually operator error on their end, not testing it right. We even have guys who are like, it's bad. They send us the blow-off valve, we're like, try this one. And then they email us back, oh my God, it's working so great. We literally just tested their blow-off valve and sent it back to them. And they think that we solved their problem. There was never an issue. So, O-rings and lube. If for whatever reason you don't have O-rings and lube with your blow-off valve, no problem. Email us, we'll send you some. So, you've got these O-rings. The black ones are the inner O-rings that go around the piston, and then the top one's like a brown or green O-ring, and it goes on top. And then you've got this little vial of it's like a special kind of O-ring lubricant that we use for like fitting O-rings. So that's what comes. You see smear all over it for the factory. You shouldn't ever have to replace that. It requires such a small amount of lubricant, and there's so much in there. We have guys, we get all the time, 4,000 or 5,000 miles on a blow-off valve, and they're like, it's working great. We're like, perfect. Don't even touch it. Just leave it. To test it, to make sure the blow-off valve's operating good, you just want to kind of take it apart. First thing you want to do is make sure this piston is moving freely. It doesn't take much. It doesn't have, it's a pretty simple design. So the 2 inner O-rings are all in there. They're all seated. They have plenty of lube on them. The top O-ring is there. It's seated. It's not pinched or like kinked. Then you just kind of gently push this back down in there, and you're good to go. We run the smaller of the springs, which is our heavy spring, not our extreme heavy, but our heavy. And then you just kind of push down, twist, put that sucker on there. Again, just push up, let go. Give it a vacuum. Doesn't have to slam down. That's all it needs. A lighter spring, you'll actually hear it here. We'll do a light spring. This is what a lot of guys get confused on. I think it should slam down. The heavier the spring, the more suction it has. You're literally providing like not even a pound of vacuum by pushing this thing up. X3 and RZRs usually pull around 9 pounds. So you're literally like 800% shy of what the factory runs for, like a factory machine runs for vacuum. So all you're doing is just providing a small amount. This is a light spring. Guys are used to that slam down. It'll slam down if you have a light spring. If you have a heavy spring, you might get a little bit of slamming down, and then your motor's just gonna hear vacuum. If you have the extreme heavy spring, that thing is pretty stiff. It's gonna be drawing all, the piston's already gonna have come down and reseated. And when you let your thumb up, it's gonna go, you know, just a little whooshing noise, and that's fine. That means it's working great. So a lot of guys ask what the difference between the included heavy spring is, and most of the time this spring is what's installed, is the heavy spring. The extreme duty spring was installed in some of these kits for a short amount of time, but very few of them went out the door. But pretty much what it is this one will, the hissing you hear when you're cruising down the road, this will eliminate that. But the problem is that it will also close the blow-off valve a little bit sooner than we feel like it should. But some guys want to get rid of that noise, that's fine. This will do that. And it will make like the whooshing noise is a little bit shorter. Like it's still just as loud. It's almost like a shorter noise. Like it's more like off on, you know, light switch off on. This one is more like a psh, and this one will be like psh. So that's kind of the difference between the springs. It's just personal preference. Springs do not affect the way the blow-off valve performs. You can literally hook this, and we do it all the time, just to prove a point. You can not put any spring in this thing, hook the blow-off valve up, it will function 100% correctly with no spring in it. And that is because the only thing that a blow-off valve knows how to do is what the turbo tells it to do. It tells it to open, and it tells it to close. So if you email us and you're like, it's not as loud as I thought it would be, your machine's not making as much boost as we thought it would make. That is the only thing that dictates how the blow-off valve works, is the turbo. This machine right here does not have a computer chip in it, doesn't have a brain, it doesn't know anything. It is only doing what the turbo is telling it to do, which is here and here. Vacuum opens it, boost closes it. When vacuum opens it after it's under boost, it expels the boost. That's the only three things this thing knows how to do. So if you have an underlying issue, you need to look past it. X3s, we always tell them, check to make sure on both machines, you need to make sure that this line is clear, free of any debris with no kinks. X3s, you need to make sure that your boost port is not clogged in any way, and most importantly, you need to make sure you're building boost. I trick, this is my favorite and worst thing to do, it's so mean. Guys call and they're like, it's not making any noise. I always say, are you testing it in neutral? Double-edged sword. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, I am testing it in neutral. I'm like, that's great, that's not how you test it. So that's why it's not making any noise. Your machine, RZR and X3s, I get that our big turbo machines will make boost in neutral and you can hear them in our videos, that's fine. But your stock machine is not going to build any boost in neutral. You literally have to give it the beans to get it to start building boost. And when it does, it's like 3 pounds, right? Stock machines making, you know, 17, 18 pounds of boost, and you're like, it's not very loud. And it's not very loud in neutral under 3 pounds of boost. There's no boost for it to expel. There's no air for it to blow out. One last thing I wanted to cover that I just about forgot about, we get a lot of questions on, and that is, I have oil coming out of my blow-off valve. Well, so here's the deal. The blow-off valve doesn't operate on engine oil. So if you have engine oil coming out of your blow-off valve, that's not good. However, it has nothing to do with your blow-off valve. To answer that question, we kind of go above and beyond and explain that you need to figure out why is there oil in your charge tubes. Reasons there could be oil in your charge tubes are you've overfilled the engine oil, you have excessive crankcase pressure, you've got a bad turbo seal, or you have blow bypass the piston rings. And I hate to scare you with those last two, but those are reasons that it could be putting oil in your charge tubes. Regardless, you shouldn't have oil in your charge tubes. We do offer catch cans that could solve a lot of that if you have crankcase pressure that has an excessive blow-by, but a lot of the times the excessive blow-by is just because the engine is too full on oil. Guys like to put it at the dipstick or a little bit above the dipstick. That engine oil gets hot and watery, and the viscosity gets thinner, and it starts sloshing around, and it gets up by the crankcase vent tubes, and then it blows it through the intake, and then through the intake it goes through the turbo, and through the turbo into your charge tubes. So if you do have oil coming out of your blow-off valve, or it's dripping out, or your air filter's covered in oil, it's nothing to do with your blow-off valve. The oil inside your charge tubes have just found the path of least resistance, and that is through the blow-off valve. So you need to get that figured out. You need to get it taken care of. Technically isn't hurting anything, literally lubricating your blow-off valve, but it's not good, and you don't need to be burning oil. Obviously, oil is not an efficiency or efficient detonation liquid, so don't try to burn oil through your naturally aspirated motor or forced induction motor, or gasoline motor, I should say. So that kind of answers the questions of why do I have oil in my charge tube coming out of my blow-off valve.